Today is Tuesday, May 19th. This is our read aloud for Out of My Mind. The rain didn't seem to be letting up, so Mom took a deep breath and started the process of loading me into the car. When I ride the bus, I simply roll down our ramp, down the driveway, onto the bus lift, and into a specially designed area of the bus that straps my chair into place. But when I ride in the car, it involves a whole process of taking apart and putting together me, my chair, and my stuff. Even with my manual chair, it's a pain. And Dad was no help. With his arm in a sling, he shrugged and tried to look like he was sorry he couldn't come out and lend Mom a hand. I think he was enjoying it a little, and that made Mom even more upset. The rain and wind, if anything, had gotten worse. Mom had draped a huge plastic raincoat over me and my chair and another one over herself, but in seconds the hoods had blown off and our heads were soaked. We headed slowly down the wheelchair ramp, the wind whipping at us and the rain attacking from all sides. I thought it was exciting. I'd never seen the sky so dark at 8 in the morning. The thunder and wind made me feel like a scene out of a really good movie. My hair is short and curly, and I think it looks sort of cute when it's wet. Good thing. Mom hates it when her hair gets wet. It gets stringy and limp. I gotta admit, Mom with wet hair should hide in a closet. She opened the car door on the passenger side and the wind blew it shut. She did it again, this time using me and my chair as a doorstop. The front seat of the car, of course, was getting soaked. She lifted me into the seat, strapped me in, and began the process of collapsing my chair. Fortunately, most of it's plastic and leather and metal, but I knew it would stay damp all day, even if somebody wiped it off real good when I got to school. Mom placed my chair, along with my old communication board, into the back of the SUV. When she shut the trunk, she slammed it hard. The rain continued to fall. By the time she scooted into the driver's seat, she was a dripping mess and in a terrible mood. I wish I could go back to bed, she said grumpily as she put the key into the ignition. My head is killing me. Why did I agree to go to work? I'm supposed to be off today with you in Washington. She sighed heavily. I kicked my legs in response, but only a little. I didn't want to upset her even more. That's when I glanced down and noticed she'd forgotten my book bag. Catherine's card. I reached over, grabbed Mom's arm, and pointed to my feet. What? She said, irritation in her voice. I kicked. I pointed. I grunted. Then I pointed to the house. Dad, who had changed into thick gray sweats, was standing there at the front door, grinning, my denim book bag in his right hand. I could see Penny, still in her little yellow duck pajamas, and now a yellow rain hat, standing behind him. She had Doodle and Mom's red umbrella in her hands. Lightning crackled. Thunder followed. The rain poured. I watched Mom's hands tighten on the steering wheel. She made a noise that sounded like something I would say, almost a growl. Ah! She flung open the car door, stomped back into the storm, up the ramp, and then she snatched the book bag from Dad. She was sopping wet by the time she got back in the car. Dad waved his bandaged arm from the porch one last time, then turned and went back into the dryness of the house. I watched as the front door almost closed. That's when I saw a small bundle of yellow, dragging a red umbrella, dart out of the house. I saw her for only a second, but I saw. I screamed, I kicked, I flailed my arms. The windows were almost completely fogged up, and they got even worse as I continued to act like I'd been possessed by demons. Mom looked at me as if I had lost my mind. She screamed at me, "Stop it! Are you crazy?" But I wouldn't stop. I couldn't. I banged on the car window, pulled Mom's shirt, hit her head. I pinched her, or at least I tried to. I can't take any more Melody, Mom screamed over the thunder. I hate it when you get like this. You've got to learn to control yourself. Now quit it. She put her hand on the keys to start the car. I screamed, reached over and tried to pull the keys from her. I scratched the back of Mom's hand. She smacked me on the leg. She'd never raised a hand to me before. Never. I still didn't stop screaming and kicking and jerking. I had to tell her. I had to tell her that Penny was out there. Never had I wanted words more. I was going out of my mind. I'm taking you to school and I hope they keep you, Mom mumbled under her breath. Angrily, she turned on the car. A rush of air started to clear the windows. The windshield wipers rocked at their fastest speed. I cried, huge, sobbing tears. I grabbed at Mom's arm once more, but all she did was shake my arm away. I could tell she didn't feel like hitting me again, but she didn't. Her lips were tight. She looked out the rear view mirror. She put the car into reverse. I shrieked. I screeched. I yelled. The rain poured. The thunder roared. Slowly, the big car rolled backward. I felt the soft thud. I became deadly silent. Mom stopped, turning her head slowly to the left. Then she turned slowly to the right, almost as if in slow motion, as she saw Dad come running out of the house, a look of stark alarm on his face. "Penny!" I heard him yell. "Where's Penny?" Mom rolled the window down on my side. Rain poured in onto me, but I didn't care. "What do you mean she's with you?" Mom's voice was low but sounded frantic and very, very scared. She got out of the car. She looked down. She screamed for a long, long time. Her screams were louder than the police sirens that eventually came shrieking around the corner, louder than the fire truck and ambulance sirens that followed them, louder than my silent cries. I sat there for what seemed like hours, basically forgotten, strapped in the front seat of the car as the rain poured in my open window. I ached with fear. Chapter 31. The air felt thick and damp, like the silence that followed the screaming and crying and sirens. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. After Mom and Dad left the ambulance, Mrs. V took me out of the car and sat me in my chair. She placed the soggy, filthy doodle on my tray. "I found this under the car," she said, her voice shaky. I touched it and burst into tears. As she rolled me to her house, she said, "We're gonna clean Doodle up and have him waiting for Penny when she comes home, you hear?" I couldn't tell if she was trying to convince me or herself. I felt dizzy and nauseous. I could not stop shaking. After changing my clothes into warm, dry sweats, she switched the radio to an easy listening station and turned the volume down low. The only color I heard was gray. Mrs. V stood behind me, gently rubbing my shoulders. "Are you hungry?" she asked. I shook my head no. She continued to massage my back and shoulders until we both could feel the tension slipping away. "I'm going next door to get your Metatalker and the dog," she said. "You want anything else?" I shook my head and continued to listen to the tones of smoky gray. When she got back, Butterscotch seemed nervous. She kept pacing and sniffing as if she was looking for something. "I think she's looking for Penny," Mrs. V said. "Dogs know." She hooked up Elvira to my chair and switched it on, but there was nothing either of us could say. "It's not your fault, you know," she said finally. I shook my head forcefully. Mrs. V should know better than to say stuff just to make me feel better. "I mean it, Melody. It's not your fault." "Yes, it is," I replied on my talker. I turned the volume up loud. Mrs. V walked around to where I could see her, leaned down until her face was just inches from my own. "You did your best to warn your mother. You should be proud of yourself." "Not proud. Not enough," I typed. "Sometimes things happen that are beyond our control, Melody. You did everything right." The guilt bubbled up then. "I was mad at Penny," I typed, slower than usual. "Penny knows you love her," she said. Tears slid down my cheeks. "Made Mom go to school." "So what? The fact that you insisted on going to school even after what happened to you yesterday shows you are a strong person, a better person than anyone else there. I'm proud of you for that." "Don't be." "I'm sure Penny will be just fine," Mrs. V said. But then her voice said otherwise. For the first time I could remember, Mrs. V sounded unsure. "She was alive and breathing when the ambulance took her, so I'm going to believe that's still the case. Toddlers are very resilient, you know." I had to know something else. "Her brain? Messed up?" I asked. I had seen enough television shows on brain trauma to know it was possible my classmate Jill had been in a car accident. I couldn't bear to see Penny like that. Mrs. V answered thoughtfully and honestly, I suppose it's possible, but I pray that's not the case. Two broken kids, I typed. Just the idea almost made me gag. That's not going to happen, Melody. But Mrs. V's voice wavered. I heard it.